Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jenny will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger, helping you whip your business into shape. Today, I have a guest who, this is my first time ever meeting him, but when I was introduced to the idea of what Jamie does, I was like, oh, gotta get this guy on. So let me tell you all about Jamie Shanks. Jamie Shanks is the CEO of both Pipeline Signals and Sales for Life. Now, Pipeline Signals is a pioneer in relationship signal intelligence monitoring, which sounds really big and important. And I'm going to make it easy for you guys. It's tech. It's sales tech. Okay. But what I want to do is focus on talking with him about his Sales for Life. So Sales for Life is the world's largest social selling training program for mid-market and enterprise companies. And Sales for Life has trained over 250,000 sales and marketing professionals in dozens of industries. Jamie's workshops have been delivered across 6 continents for brands such as Microsoft, Thomson Reuters, Oracle, American Airlines, and Intel. Those are some pretty big names you got there, Jamie.
Oh, I appreciate it. I've worked hard to serve the global enterprise.
That's amazing. And so now it's time for you to get a sales workshop that's being done from Antarctica, because I don't know about you, but does it drive you crazy that you haven't hit all 7 yet?
I actually did. I used to live in Adelaide, Australia, and I had an opportunity. I was 25 years old and I had enough money for 2 trips, or 1 trip, and I could choose. It was a trip to Antarctica or 2 months through Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Malaysia. And myself and a buddy took Southeast Asia. But I do regret not seeing Antarctica.
Well, it's not too late. And hey, if you've done workshops that have been delivered on 6, you may as well just make it a business trip, run the workshop via Zoom from Antarctica so you can just check. Yeah, exactly. It's Zoom. You can be anywhere. And how much fun would it be for everybody to be like, I just participated in a sales seminar that was being run out of Antarctica. I think that'd be pretty freaking cool, personally. Anyway, but I digress. So Jamie, give us a little bit of history. How did you get into Sales for Life?
I didn't want to be a seller as I grew up. I wanted to be a stockbroker my whole life. Then I became a stockbroker. And I hated it. And so I ended up leaving during the dot-com crash of 2000, 2001, left to Australia, did my master's degree for a couple of years there. And when I came back to Canada, you'll hear it in my accent, I'm from Toronto, Canada, I couldn't get a job. I thought I had sales experience, or I thought I had experience and a master's degree, and everybody will hire me, and no one would. And the only job I got was a 100% commission job in commercial real estate. So your audience in MLM understand what it's like to feast and famine. I did. And it turned out I was really good at booking meetings, opening doors, talking to chief commercial officers, chief financial officers, the people that do office leasing inside corporations. And so that opened up a door at a software company. I was employee number 3, and we built up a software that ultimately became very successful. And at the ripe age of 30 or 31 at the time, I decided to quit my job and I would start a consulting company, helping local Toronto businesses with inside sales or prospecting best practices. Well, for 2 years, I struggled, barely made a nickel. And the company, I almost went into bankruptcy. And I was very fortunate to see around a corner. And I saw the advent of social media and this tool called LinkedIn that could be used for business development. And I pioneered a type of sales methodology called social selling, invented the word, scaled it up, and the rest is history, built a global sales training business called Sales for Life.
That's awesome. And so do you focus mainly then with LinkedIn, or is it cross-platform, all social media platforms?
So there are many parts of our teaching that have been brought into the Facebook, Instagram, Zing, Weibo, WeChat from a global audience, right? So these are all B2C, B2B hybrid type social media platforms, but the predominant platform du jour is LinkedIn for business to business. Yeah.
Right. No, that and that makes a lot of sense because the people in my audience being in direct sales, network marketing, and MLM, part of their way to build their business is to bring on other business builders like them who want to, sell and grow a team, sell and grow a team. And I've been trying to explain to people, Facebook is a good place to get customers. LinkedIn is the place to get team members. So what reasons would you give as a LinkedIn expert for maneuvering somebody's focus for a team from Facebook to LinkedIn?
Yeah, I actually used to build these process maps for Rodan and Fields. So the professionals at Rodan and Fields would learn social selling through my company, Sales for Life. And here's the way to think about it. Everything about prospecting, and remember, the word prospecting is not a bad word. Let's just say opening a door.
Yeah.
There's two ways to open a door. You open a door to win a new customer, and you also win a door to bring on a new teammate. And everything that is a door opener is a left brain and a right brain motion. Meaning, on the left side of our brain, we collect data and intelligence to make informed decisions, such as, would that person be a good fit to be part of my team or not? Mm-hmm. Or would that customer, should I focus on that customer today or tomorrow? So that's all part of left brain thinking. And we want to use the data and intelligence within LinkedIn to help us make informed decisions, objective decision-making around these compelling events or triggers that have happened. Did somebody take a new job? Is somebody get a promotion? Is a company growing? Is somebody looking for employment right now? So all those details are inside LinkedIn. That's the left side of our brain. And then LinkedIn offers the right side of your brain, which is engagement. So it allows you to communicate with people in LinkedIn groups or people in your city or people that went to the same university you did. And so teammates, as an example, at Rodan and Fields, what they would do is they would do a concept called the sphere of influence. Meaning, I'll give you a real life example. You run the Chicago Marathon every year. The Chicago Marathon and yourself are now at the center of a sheet of paper. Now draw a circle around that and reverse engineer it and ask yourself, well, who else in LinkedIn has written on their LinkedIn profile the Chicago Marathon as part of their volunteer work or interest groups? Now, all of a sudden, you can find business professionals who have run the Chicago Marathon. So you have a compelling conversation to have together. That sphere of influence connection brings you into a tool like LinkedIn. So it gives you both that left and right brain motion.
That is powerful. And I think it's really important too, because the nice thing about those kinds of connections is, because for example, that Chicago Marathon, to go back to that, there's thousands of people who are there, and how many of them have probably posted about it on their LinkedIn if they're also in business, and that is the easiest place to search for those kinds of things, and with people who are already entrepreneurial and business minded, right? Correct. And I think that's really the key in the business building piece for people who are looking to recruit. How do you prospect? How do you get someone to open that door? Well, you got to start with somebody, you got to start at, instead of a house, where that door is located, maybe that door is located on a business building, So think of Facebook as like the house. So consumer, LinkedIn is the business building where that door is located. Is that a good analogy? Does that work?
Yeah, and also the best way to start. So some people use fishing as an analogy, I know.
Okay.
So social media marketing, Facebook, is fishing with a net. So you take a net, think if you had a trawling boat, you would throw a net into the ocean. And then as you wheel it in, all the sea urchins would be attached to that net. Some are of value to you, and some are crabs and eels and dolphins and the things you might not want. So you throw it back. What we want to do is fish with a spear. So our goal is to go out into the deeper water and to focus on very specific accounts or very specific people and have targeted conversations. And the best way to start, I would always advise anybody who's doing this for themselves, one of the best, simplest ways to start is reverse engineer yourself and your common interests and your life experience. One of the ones that are most obvious on LinkedIn is your post-secondary education. So if you went to a university or college or a military college, you can actually drop in and reverse engineer all the alumni that went to that school or your private school or a military base that you served at. And you can identify people who are entrepreneurial, who've walked a mile in the same shoes you have. And now you have this break the ice conversation. Oh, I noticed that you went to the same school as me. Do you remember when we used to do this? At the football games. Now let's bring this to a business conversation.
I love it. And it's so much better than the, try and connect on Facebook with, someone you went to high school with. Because, there's even memes going around on Facebook going, oh, just got a friend request from someone I went to high school with. Here comes the sales pitch.
Exactly.
It's now become such a thing. It's a meme, right? It's out there and I've seen it lots of times because I always get tagged in it because of what I do and who I work with. They're like, oh my gosh. So as you're working through this with people and they've opened the door, right? They've made the connection with someone on LinkedIn. They've said, hey, I see that we both went to the same university or we both ran the marathon or whatever the common connection is. What's the next step or thing that they should consider as a potential step in maneuvering that conversation towards a conversation about the business opportunity? Because a lot of people will say, okay, yes, I can say, hey, I see that we both went to Truman State University, which, by the way, that's where I went to school. So go Bulldogs. But we both went to Truman State University. How do you go from Truman State University to recruiting conversation?
Sure. So I'll make this as tactical as possible. I'll tell you real life messaging from teammates at Rodan and Fields. So one of the best at recruiting, and there was a lady, if I recall, she was maybe in Louisiana, and she focused in on moms and soon to be entrepreneurs that are part of military spouses. So what she was doing was taking a base. She, let's say, took Fort Bragg, and then now is using LinkedIn to reverse engineer those that are living within that community and serving towards that community. And I was a part of Fort Bragg alumni groups. Then from there, her messaging style, of course, every message has to have 4 components. Number 1, why should you listen? Why should you care? And that's that icebreaker. Listen, I'm also a mother working in Fort Bragg who've started a business. Part 2 is the value creation. There is only 3 ways you can add value to somebody's life. You can either make them money, save them money, or mitigate risk. Risk of failure, risk of a lawsuit, risk of losing your job, risk of missing bill payments. So she focused in on the opportunity of making extra income for, like, say, family education. So she was very overt about saying, I have an opportunity for mother entrepreneurs living on base to create extra income for themselves. Very simple, talking to their fellow alumni. Part 3 to the message is what's called the knowledge or time for knowledge exchange, time and or knowledge exchange. The concept is, if I'm trying to book a meeting with yourself, Jenny, you have next Thursday at 2:00 Eastern Standard Time available to give, and I'm trying to buy that time. So if somebody is trying to earn that time, which to you is worth $500 or $1,000 an hour, like it's a valuable, a time slot, I have to give you something that you don't already know. So I need to give you an insight, a nugget of gold, a little window into a piece of knowledge where you say the opportunity cost of not knowing more next Thursday is worse than bypassing this meeting. So I have to give you something where you go, wow, more knowledge on that topic is worth 30 minutes next Thursday. Whatever that is. In my world, we give away, in my software company, we will give away a couple free samples or leads and say, is your sales team calling these? Now, all of a sudden, it opens up the door of opportunity cost. Oh my God, we're not doing that. Then the fourth piece to the message is you have to be very overt call to action. And this is where most professionals fall down. They'll say, would you want to have a coffee in a few weeks? Or are you available for 15 minutes? Give human beings direction. Are you available next Thursday, September 28th at 2:00 Eastern Standard? We'll have a Zoom call. That gives people a binary yes, no decision making, and it converts a lot better than open-ended, would love to have coffee one day. And they're like, coffee when? Coffee where? I don't even like coffee, right? So that's how you want to think of your messaging. That's how you bring it from, by the way, we went to the same university and we used to go to to this super party that used to happen every year. You bring it back to the fun things from your university days. That's how you bring it into a business context.
I love it. And so now, listener, make sure you go back, listen to that again with a piece of paper and a pen and take notes, because that was really valuable information. Because the reason people drop the ball in that conversion conversation is because number one, they go into it going, okay, yeah, it's great for me to connect, but I don't know how to get from there to there. And Jamie just gave you the literal formula for how to get from point A to point B, which is to have a conversation with somebody, a real conversation, because you don't want to have that conversation on LinkedIn, right?
Oh, yeah. So the purpose of LinkedIn is to go from online to offline as quick as possible. But it's the simplest medium to communicate with people that you don't have their mobile phone number.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I adore LinkedIn because of how specific and all the different things that they let you search for. And just like you were talking about, going as specific as where do they live, who do they serve, what do they have about themselves on their profile? You can get extremely specific. And I highly recommend getting extremely specific, because the more targeted, as you mentioned, the more center of the circle that looks just like you, the more likely you are to be able to connect with somebody, because you're going to have more in common with somebody who has a lot of similarities, obviously, to you. So Jamie, as you've been doing all of this, and I didn't even know that you did that for Rodan and Fields. That's freaking cool. So I will now be sharing this with all my Rodan and Fields listeners for sure that are in my network. But in doing this for them, how have you branched out and gone from that to now you're serving like Microsoft? And I mean, Rodan and Fields is huge. Don't get me wrong. They're huge.
That was in all honesty, that's an anomaly to the typical customer that I serve. So I've always served the Microsoft, Oracles, and Intels of the world.
Yeah.
And Rodan and Fields is owned by a private equity firm called TPG. And it was TPG who said, I want to bring in the way that B2B sellers think into the MLM B2C world. And how can we teach what is a sales professional does at Microsoft, somebody at Rodan and Fields? And the applicability is astonishing as you start to break down social selling into its finer points. And you think about how it serves a recruiting function and it serves a winning of your customer is your team.
Yeah.
And then that team expands. I'll tell you one other quick story. Actually, the one that I found the most fascinating was, again, tools like LinkedIn allow you to become hyper-focused. There was a Rodan and Fields professional who, if I recall, she either ran Puerto Rico and or was a lawyer from Puerto Rico who was opened up in Southern Florida, as an example. Well, what does that allow you to do? People buy from people they like, and people like people just like themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So what did she do? Reverse engineered everyone that was a legal professional in Southern Florida, as an example, but more importantly, had Spanish and or Puerto Rican written anywhere on their LinkedIn profile.
Right.
Now can build this robust list of people who walked a mile in their shoes, living in Puerto Rico, is a lawyer, is like all these things, and just door opener after door opener. Because if you are a generalist, just selling to perhaps your high school classmates, that will only get you so far. You only went to school, your class only had 25 or 30 students in it, times the number of classes in your grade, right? But there are many elements within your life that make up who you are and who would be attracted to your story.
Yeah. Oh, man, the nuggets from that are just phenomenal. Like, I'm already like, okay, how can I take this to my coaching clients? How can, because I think that is just brilliant to go through and think, for me, it would be, yes, military brats, who went to Truman, who lives in the St. Louis area.
Cats.
Yeah, cat owner, exactly. Who's got crazy colored hair, all the different.
But you just talked about 4 different personas
right.
that open up, can take your marketing database and 10x it.
Oh.
And that's essentially what it does.
I love it. I love it. And so based on what we've talked about here today, and I know we could go in so much deeper, but we're going to leave it here because this is a great stopping point for the listener. But if they want to learn more, how can they reach out to you? How would you like them to contact you to learn more about Sales for Life and the social selling training programs you offer?
Well, we made it simple. We talked about LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
And as well, so I own Sales for Life. It's a sales training company. It's geared for corporations whose sellers work within corporations. It's usually a corporate purpose. Cool. And then my company, Pipeline Signals, is a software that actually monitors job changes around the world. And what it does is it tells you who came from your happy customer base and went into a prospect. And it alerts you automatically so that you as a seller know, oh my God, Jane Smith is now over at company ABC. She's our happy advocate from another company.
Nice. Oh, that's fascinating. Oh, you and I might have to talk offline about that because I might have some connections for you. I mean, that's just super cool. So listener, if you're interested in learning more about some of what Jamie's been talking about, please connect with him on LinkedIn. We do have his link to LinkedIn in the show notes. So if this is the first time you've ever listened, the way you get to the show notes is make sure you grab your phone, as long as you're not driving, click on today's episode. And if you just scroll up a little bit, you'll see Jamie's information as well as the direct link to his LinkedIn. So you can click there and just go right there and connect with Jamie today and let him know how much you learned from today's episode on Badass Direct Sales Mastery. So Jamie, thank you again for your time and sharing this wealth of knowledge with my audience. I so appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, Badass crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned because there is another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.